problem. Your own stuff. When you're making your own homebrew campaigns, I mean, obviously, if you're making it like a real map, yeah, this is a real map, you know, like super impressive. But you know, it's something. And if you're not doing something super abstract, like just circles or just this really vague thing, it'd be pretty hard to get a coastline that you're happy with. If you're worried about coloring too, that can found a nice thing for doing that on the cartographersguild.net, I believe it's called. There's some excellent things there. They even showed me this program GIMP that I'm using. The original thing's Photoshop. Photoshop is obviously the thing that everybody uses. It's a super good program. I'm not going to debate that at all. I've used it before in my schooling and just in general. Love Acrobat too. Particularly Illustrator out of the Adobe products is excellent for making your own custom icons. I used to be really good at that, but for this I'm not going to put too much effort into it until I get people actually up and playing this game and get them excited about it. Once that happens, then we can really start putting more effort into this map if we want to. And if we find it's nice. So once you find this like general shape, and you can kind of like template out the ideas, like, you know, right here you can even see some of the templates that I have left over, like you see the extra green there. I just put it on there so that I'd know where to put the trees at. This originally was just going to be the color of the swamp, so maybe I'll add like something that dignifies it, that defines it as a swamp, like some mossy trees or something. I don't know yet. The wastes, these are all like template stuff. So like you get the templates down, and then you just really have to hunker down on the naming. I mean, you can make these really nice animated brushes to make like forests and stuff. Like if I zoom in, you'll be able to see that actually these aren't all the same tree. There are actually slight variations on them, and you can actually make brushes that do that. I'm sure you can do it in Photoshop. I would be very surprised if you couldn't. But it makes a nice little thing that you can add an effect. I was originally going to put these bushy trees and then make a second brush that's going to be pine trees, and I still might, but I have to do that at a different time. That way you just get some variation. What else to cover about maps? Thing that kills me, again, just quite frankly, is just, I mean, look at all this shit that you need to name. You need to name fucking, oh my god. Okay, if you're actually trying to build your own homebrew campaign and really put into it, and that's really what I wanted to do, because this is just one region. This is a very small area. It's about the size of Rhode Island, USA, about 1,600 square miles, give or take. Sounds like a lot, but it's not. It's about a 40 by 40 area, if you put it that way. 40 miles. When you have a 40-mile area to deal with, adventurers can get from place to place very quickly, and that's what we wanted to do with this campaign. We wanted to really develop a region, and I wanted to really experience what it's like to develop something in that rich of a fashion. Adventurers will be spending their entire campaigning lives in this very small portion of town. And you might think that that's unreasonable. Like, you know, how are you going to limit somebody to this very small area? You know, how much could there possibly be? But that's not true at all. It's been done before in video games very effectively, and it's even been done in normal D&D. Like, you think about in Forgotten Realms, you have the city of Waterdeep, you have Undermountain, you know, this huge dungeon, and that's just one place. And people spend their entire, like, adventuring lives in that setting, just exploring Undermountain, and usually dying as a result of it because it's dangerous. But it's not unheard of. And I think as a DM, you gotta be willing to break that mold and try new things. That's really important. We got this area that's like a 40 by 40 place. And when you have that much, or that little space to work with, you need to the players need to feel like there is really life in there. Like, as many roads as you can name, as many places as you can name, the better. It makes them have an identity. Obviously, this looks like a fucking mess because it... Chalk that up as a fault of my ability to map things, not as a fault of the concept. So conceptually, it's a good idea, I think. So, like, look at all the shit that we need to name. Like, we have the towns, which there's not even like a ton of towns, but you just want a nice town that has a good ring to it and that thematically fits. Thematics are a big thing to me personally, but not as much to other people. They'll be willing to call something Birmingham or whatever, even though it's like, okay, how would, like, when you name a town in particular, or any place, most places get their names from a few different locations, or a few different ideas. They get it from the person that discovers it, who either names it themselves, which usually means they name it after themselves, or they name it after whatever crown or monarchy that they were claiming it for. And because of that, they might name it after something that they can relate to. Like, if they have a hometown, they might call this new hometown or whatever. That's one of the naming conventions that you find in real life a lot. Another naming convention, and one of the ones that I really tried to push here, because it's kind of its own safe-contained world, is I tried to make things that describe either events that happen there or what people would see, or some sort of event that happened. Like, Lake of the Worm Sun is originally, to try to make a long story short, an offer fell when it was founded. Basically, the inhabitants of the tribes had to challenge the storm giants that were originally on the mountain. And champion of the storm giants was this guy who was said to be almost more beast than giant. And it's rumored that he was half son of, like, the great blue dragon of this thing. It's like a Gavanir. What is his fucking sweet name of it? Like, you have this giant champion, and his name Virgil Rum, and his father is said to be Gavanir, the Sky Splitter. It's a huge blue dragon that splits the sky with his lightning breath. He's supposed to be this guy's son, and during the course of the fight, he gets, like, shucked off the mountain, smashes into the ground, and creates this huge crater that will become this lake, and skips off into the Sendal Lord Mountains and makes a crater there, which is its own place. And so, like, this huge crater that comes from him hitting the ground and gets filled with water later becomes the Lake of the Worm Sun, son of the worm, or at least that's what the legend says about him. Other things include, like, High Road. Why is it called High Road? Because it's higher than this road, which is the Nearwood Road. It's near here. It's near the woods, the Greenheart Thicket. Obvious name. Describes it. It's near wood. Two River Route. Why is it called Two River? Goes over two rivers. Really simple things. Titan's Path goes to a place where giantkin are an enormous factor. They do raids in Orgerfell all the time. Ice Walker's Run. All of these things describe things. The Blue Rift. It's a river, so it's obviously blue, and it's the Blue Rift because it's actually the deepest river inside of this region. Like, it just goes straight down, and even though this is fresh water and you can actually pretty clearly see through it, it's just so deep that it's actually black going into the ground. So that has its own places for adventure. People think all the time that an adventuring area needs to be on top of the ground or even underground. I've never personally run water breathing campaign stuff or aquatic stuff, but I always like to have an option. You might not even make it just underwater. Like, maybe they just have to dive under the water, and then there's an underwater cave that they can go venture around, but it kind of mixes it up, and then it doesn't give them an easy way out. How many times have you had your PCs, or in a game, you just felt like, oh, well, I can just run out of here, you know? If you're underwater, that's not really a great option, because whatever's in that cave there's at least a reasonable chance that it can swim and can breathe underwater. Obviously, it could have gotten into these caves another way, but that's a very likely scenario, especially near where this entrance is. So all of a sudden, you've cut off the PCs from being able to just, like, you know, hop back on the road and run the fuck away. Or, like, if they're up in the mountains, they get out of the cave and run down the mountain trails. Can't do that anymore. Unless you want to jump in the water where these things have an advantage. And then you're in even deep trouble. It doesn't keep them from running away. They could still escape with their lives, but it'll be definitely something that they will remember and that they'll have to plan for in the future. Or it'll make a memorable fight. You know, they have to fight underwater. How many times do you do that in a campaign? I think I've, in all of my adventuring, I think I've maybe only fought underwater maybe twice. 2 fights. Which, trust me, not a lot of people, there's a lot of PCs that don't like fighting underwater. But you look for those ones. So yeah, naming conventions. Try to name things in particular in mind that are what they would see. More examples of this, I guess, before I get back to work. Well, the Marble Wall. This huge mountain range, and it's very much like a wall. And because of the coloration of the mountains, it looks like marble. It's very white with like these kind of like black etched lines in it. You name Stygian Prison. Stygian, it basically means like black or darkness. A lot of people think of it like the Stygian Abyss from Ultima. But I just really loved the word itself once I figured out what it actually meant, like literally. So, the Stygian Prison, it's this really dark and bedded and dangerous swamp. So like, you think like, well, this is a dangerous place, like why is it called a prison? Because every once in a while, every few months, they have to send guards down there, and they basically search just the bordering area and just a little bit inside of this, and they clear out all the monster tribes that are threatening to leave. And in that case, it's kind of like a prison, like they confine them to this very small place to kind of live out their lives. Obviously opens up an opportunity for higher level adventure. Also, it can open up world events, like what happens if the Stygian prison, like what if there's more things there than we even knew, and they were just showing a front? Then all of a sudden, you know, they overwhelm the forces that are trying to keep them back and start spreading the land. Creating adventuring opportunities is always a great thing. The Worm Tongue, the river, splits into 2. Kind of like a snake. Or any type of lizard, really. Maybe there's a lizard with a non-fork. I don't give a shit. The Red River, which I've been talking about. The Red River is this massive river that leads off in the ocean. They call it the Red River because it's colored very reddish because of this rusted iron flakes that like travel down the river out of Iron Spirit Mountains. It also has clay near its riverbed, kind of just water. So try to make names that are thematic, that describe the area, or like some function of who discovered it and named it. You'll find that your world starts to gain a lot more feeling and at the same time, like what does Toglovic mean? Does an Alpherfell mean when you're talking about towns? I find that towns very often either need to have a meaning that's related to a language, which these are kind of based more off of Norse, Scandinavian word patterns. It doesn't mean that they have a literal translation, but they have that type of word structure. And then they would just kind of be named after whoever found them, or just something that sounded nice. You know, some names don't even have any meaning, which is kind of crazy when I started to figure that out. But when a name doesn't even have any meaning, it's really somebody came up with. And of course, we still have towns that are named for what they are, like Orgarfell. I don't remember exactly what Orgar means, but it's something, and then Fell, Hill. And this is like this wooded foothill that's filled with like orcs and giant kin. Obviously Gunafell. silly. Stuff like that. I'm gonna change the music because I fucking hate this song, not because of the song itself. I hate what it stands for. No, I just fucking hate how this thing chirps. Cool. Whatever. Whoever's there, glad you could join though. For one of the friends, and yeah, this is pretty much what I've been working on, guys. Whenever we're not hanging out, like, this is what I've really been pushing. Trying to get this off the grid. And get Gimp going down. Hopefully, I can set this up where I'm gonna start recording my sessions that I play with people on it. And eventually, you know, if it becomes more popular, I guess you would say. Like, I don't know, I'll have some sort of threshold. Like, I don't want to be unreasonable with myself. Be like, oh, I'm not going to do anything with this until I have 1,000 people. Like, it's not how you gain viewership. It's not how people want to learn about the game or anything like that. Maybe when I get up to like 50 people, I'll host like question nights, talk about DMing theory, or maybe, you know, I can tell you I have salvaged campaigns a lot, like figuring out a new storyline, figuring out how to work around players' wants and desires. I think it'd be interesting to maybe help out people with problems that they have. Alright, so for that long thing, we can get to work on the Pilgrim Field, which is another region, which means we're going to use the region template. So we do header 3. By the way, if you aren't one of my few friends that I've sent this to, part of Facebook, I use a program, or not a program, but a website called obsidianportal.com. It allows you to make your own campaign and to track it. You can do this on your own. It allows you to upload maps, create your own wiki. An excellent tool if you are willing to put the time into it. And I do mean time because it takes time to write out all this shit. So, Pilgrim's Field. What do we know about Pilgrim's Field? Let me look at it. We know that there's not any... Well, we do have landmarks. We have one road. We don't have any towns, though, so we don't need a town. So we're gonna go ahead with that. Go... Roads, then landmarks. Landmarks. Alright, so the roads leading into here is one that's Ice Walker's Run. Noticed how absurd that name is. It's the Ice Walkers. Whatever. In this case, run doesn't refer to their speed. Go fuck yourself. Alright. This is how you get viewers. Yell at them and cuss at them, right? Alright. Get back to it.